Hello, everyone. So, nice meeting you. We are here today to discuss about and see what Chima has prepared regarding the eight types of content to prioritize. So, in this AI world, there are so many things that are changing, and if you will follow Chima on LinkedIn, you will see exactly the battle around the topics of if SEO is dying, if SEO is actually changing, whatever. So it's such an interesting topic, and I believe we have the best speaking to us about what's happening and what kind of content we need to prioritize now because of all these. So let's give just 2 to 3 minutes, and then we will be starting. So Chima, the floor is all yours. So I will be removing myself, so you will be alone. Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction. Uh, let's see. Can you all see my slides? I'm trying to make sure that my slides are showing. Yes. Okay. All right. So my name is Chima Mmeje, and I am the senior content marketing manager at Mmeje. And I picked this topic because if you do content marketing, any sort of marketing, then you are probably experiencing declining clicks from organic channels, all thanks to AI. So, what should we be doing as AI is quote unquote stealing our traffic? Or if we're being honest, not AI, Google, as Google is stealing our traffic. Let me use that word. What kind of content do we need to be creating going forward? So everything I'm sharing here is all of the stuff that I personally have tried and that our wider marketing team have tried at Moz. And this is the stuff that I have seen that based on the data is driving the best results. So I'm going to walk you through my favorites, the one that is literally fueling our content engine right now, webinars, trending topics, new keyword opportunities, original research, opinion style content, first person how to content, product keyword opportunities, and the new one everyone is talking about, or at least the new one I'm excited for, affiliate and influencer led content. It's a lot. So let's get into it. Now, when I joined Moz, one of the first things I did was to start figuring out um how can we diversify the way we bring in traffic to the website so that we are not completely dependent on Google for traffic. And the first thing I figured I was going to work to nurture community to help us educate our audience was webinars. And I'll tell you why. Webinars, for me, it has more value than even public speaking. If you attend a public speaking event, is what, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. It's very difficult for the person who is presenting to open their laptop and show you workflows. We can do all of that with webinar. We can provide more value in a webinar than we would in a blog post or anything else. And this is a strategy that we use. Now, when I started doing the webinars at Moz, I made a lot of mistakes. The number one mistake I made was that I did not keep the target customer front of mind. Now, what do I mean by target customer? Who is the ideal buyer? For us, we are trying to target a certain type of people. Let's say they're marketing generalists, they're at the beginning of their career, they are agencies, and these are the people I need to be creating content for. But when I started running webinars, I think I got carried away with trying to present high level, very technical stuff. And I ignored the fact that many of the people who are using our products are probably not there. So this gives you an idea using us as an example. When people are coming to us, what they're looking for is automations to speed up their workflows, simple strategy, tips to get more of our tool, and how to understand what's going on in industry. This means that if I'm creating webinar content, I need to be factoring this in when I am creating our webinar content. The moment I realized this, everything changed. I started using that to choose webinar topics. And then I made sure that the webinar topics that I am choosing is relevant to a problem that our audience is facing right now. There's an opportunity for us to show our product because we are a product-led company, and it applies to a wider subset because when I go narrow, the attendance is usually very, very low. Now, I used to think that we needed to attract big name guests in order to sign up people for the webinar. But recently, I've understood that the most important thing is not who is presenting the webinar, is what they are saying. Now, who should run your webinars? This is a really good example because apart from the Practical Marketer webinar series that I run, we also have Accelerator webinar series. The Accelerator webinar series is geared towards people who are beginners. The Practical Marketer is geared towards people who are more advanced. Two different audiences. For the Accelerator webinar, when we tried to use somebody in-house to run the webinar, I think the sign-ups was very low, very, very low, maybe like 300 people that signed up. Attendance was something, maybe a third of that number. When we switched towards asking a customer to run the webinar, we had like 2,000 plus people signing up to attend the webinar. What does that mean? People will be more likely to listen to a customer who is using the tool to get results versus somebody who works at the company who is incentivized to sell. So what we do now for the Accelerator webinars is that we find a customer who loves the product. We find we understand where their product fits into the process and how they use it to drive results. So for example, Peter runs an agency. And in the agency, I found a case study that they had worked on for a client, and the result was insane. 375% search engine visibility. Moz was crucial to that. So I used that case study and I asked them, come and do a webinar and walk us through the process of how you achieve these results. They can naturally tie in the product during that webinar. The audience is going to find value because it's based on the work that Peter has done, and the product is going to fit in naturally as part of the process. Now, if we're doing something more advanced, like the Practical Marketer, what I found worked is to look for a thought leader. So like I said, a thought leader doesn't have to be somebody that has like 50K followers. For me, a thought leader is somebody who is doing the work, who is driving results, and who has the expertise to speak about the work that they are doing because they have receipts. Charlie doesn't have tens of thousands of followers on LinkedIn, but we brought her to run our webinar that we just did yesterday, and over 2,000 people again signed up for the webinar. It was also our highest attendance rate ever. Now, I think the thing that really makes the webinar to stand out is that I always try to identify a problem that is happening right now. And then I look for somebody who has solved that problem. I platform the solution as a topic, and I ask the guest, how do you break this down into actionable steps that anyone can replicate? I work with them to bring that up to speed, and the presentation is always incredible. Like if you see the feedback from our webinar yesterday, people were like, can we have another section just for questions? Can we have a part two? It really was that good. Now, when I'm promoting webinars, I found that email is our #1 channel. This is our HubSpot data. Screenshot I took. Look at that number. Submissions, 2,000 plus. Look at how many submissions came from email. Over 1,500 submissions. And look at that conversion number. It's like what, 61%? That's insane. That is a very high converting channel. Now, something I do with emails is that I use 4 emails to target registrations, and then I use 3 emails to target attendance, because I realized that when we just send that email to get people to sign up, like maybe most of them are not going to come to the webinar itself. But now that I've started using reminder emails, we're now getting a higher attendance at the webinars. Now, the first email is going to be value loaded. I just want to refresh what we've created in the landing page. Second email, I want to tap into fear around the knowledge gap. And I call this, when I'm using ChatGPT to write the emails, I want to cross the blood-brain barrier with that second email. Third email, tap into a second fear. Fourth email, FOMO. After the webinar, I repurpose it into blog content, kind of like what we did with Andy Crestodina's webinar where we turned it into 2 banging blog content. My King's webinar, we're able to get 4 different blog posts. And the best part is that I can target a different keyword for every piece of content that I'm releasing from one webinar. Now, after that piece of content, I repurpose it into short form videos that I can put on the blog, that we can use on social media, and that we can even use on YouTube. And then we remarket to the new email signups using an offer that is relevant to the webinar topic. So we attract the leads, we give them value, we repurpose the content, and we remarket to generate revenue. And the best part of all of this is that I use ChatGPT to write all the copy: landing page, email sequence, repurposing the webinar transcript and deck, and also writing social content. So I was going to, I want to see if I can quickly show you my screen just to give you an idea of what that workflow looks like. So the first thing I usually do is to write the landing page. And when I write the landing page, I try to give ChatGPT some context. I've created a GPT for that, but I try to give you some context. I try to tell it, this is the title of the webinar. These are 3 things that I'm going to be discussing in the webinar, and this is the angle that I want to pursue. ChatGPT can take that and then write a landing page copy. The big mistake that most people make, in my opinion, is that they try to take that copy from ChatGPT and just copy it verbatim into their website, instead of trying to push ChatGPT to give you something better, something deeper, that's kind of like takes you to the next level. And then you put in the work to finalize what that copy is going to look like before you publish it. So after it gives me the first draft, what do? I tell it, it's always the same thing. There's always a disconnect, the flow is not right. It goes back in, it does a V2 of it. And sometimes I might even ask it to do a V3, kind of like this, more feedback. And then it goes back again, it gives me a V3. And then I can use V1, V2, V3 of what ChatGPT has written and use that to write the final copy of the webinar. After I have that landing page, I take that landing page copy, I put it into the next GPT. The next GPT is an email sequence generator, and it can use the landing page copy to give me emails that are honestly so good. This was the one I just created today. So what I do is that I give it the landing page, and then I tell it, tell me the strategy. How are you going to cover the 4 emails? It gives me a strategy, we tweak it, we arrive on a final strategy, and then it starts writing. It writes the first email. If I have any feedback, I give it to it, and I settle on that. But today, because of how much I've put into training it, the first email that it gave me was so good that I just gave ChatGPT this feedback. Oh my days, you've absolutely earned my respect. It was banging. And our emails are converting at a high rate because it is personalized. But because it's so good, it's so well done with ChatGPT, people don't even know that I am using AI to write this content. The key is personalization. We finish the webinar. I take all of those presentation and slides, feed it back again into ChatGPT, and then I use it to write the blog post. The first step is always asking it to tell me how many blog posts can we get from this, and then I'm asking it to give me an outline, and then we start writing. It's a whole blended process. And even after writing the blog post, I still use a GPT that will turn that blog post into social content here. So, like I said, it's a whole process. Sorry about the infinity slides that you were seeing. Yes. And yeah, that's it about webinars. But I tell you, if you're not doing it, you need to start investing in webinar, because it's a great way to feed your entire content funnel. Okay, trending topics and new keyword opportunities. At Mmeje, some of our most successful content have been when we capitalized on something that is happening in the industry right now. Look at this one from the SEO trends. Honestly, this is like, will I say, number one content that we release every year, or at least top five every year, the SEO trends. And it's released at the right time when people are looking for advice on what to focus on in the next year. Same with this one on top SEO tips. Same with this one on SEOs sharing their key takeaway from when the Google leaks happened. Same with this one on the future of SEO that we did with Lily Ray. Now, the trick is that you need to be active in your community to know when a trend is about to take off. And personally, for me, that's Twitter, that's LinkedIn. I spend a lot of time on LinkedIn, reading content, seeing what people are engaging with. And that kind of gives me an idea of what is about to become a trend. And I can use that to either create a webinar, blog post, any sort of content that's going to help us to like really get in there. Now, when I figure out what the trend is going to be, I can take that data into Moz and then I can find associated topics with that trend. That gives me an idea of what kind of content we're going to need to create to really get in there. If we're going to write, if we're going to do something like a webinar, I can ask a creator like Lily Ray to join us on a webinar. And after that webinar, I can then repurpose it into blog posts. So it's allowing us to like show up in multiple places at once using content that people want to see and from an expert that they know and respect. Now, original research. And I like this thing that Steve Racing said. He said, if you want to create content that achieves a high level of shares, create opinion forming or well-researched evidence content. He published this study, like I think maybe 2013, a long time ago, but this thing is still valid till today. And I'll tell you why. This was one of our most successful content pieces in 2024. And it was published by Tom Kappa. And he did research that showed that the helpful content is not really what we are thinking about. And it kind of blew everybody's mind. This was published, what, maybe middle of last year. But till today, people are still reading this content. People are still referencing it. I personally referenced this content in my last blog post that I just published on Moz. Now, why does it work? It's relevant. This is the number one factor with research, in my opinion. It uses data to take an opposing view. I don't think we do enough of this. And I think that is kind of the thing that we need to do with research reports. How can you use data to show that a long-held belief is actually a lie or is false? It positions our product and it gives it credibility. So the research that Tom did tied back to something that the HCU was about the demand for your brand. And as you can see, I nicely just put that CTA there about Moses brand authority. It is useful for your target audience to get buy-in for brand marketing. If you're trying to think about what kind of reports should you create, always ask this question. What kind of data will I give my audience that will allow them or that will empower them to get buy-in from their C-suites or from leadership? That is always going to be a banger for research. Now, the best reports do several things. They provide clarity on the question people are asking, support existing claims everyone assumes as truth. And this was something that Andy Cristo Jr. highlighted when he did his Moz webinar last year. It takes an opposing view, helps your audience get buy-in, and most importantly, like I said, it's timely and relevant. And obviously, I had to reference Andy because Andy is the GOAT. And when I say GOAT, I mean greatest of all time. We're doing research, in my opinion. From the moment I came into the industry, this was one of the first things that I encountered, the blogging statistics that Andy releases every year. And he showed the data to show us that this report generates so much traffic that they can funnel to conversion assets on the website to convert people. Look at that page authority. Look at the number of domains that have linked back to it. Look at the backlinks that that page has earned. It is insane. And if you see the people who are linking to Andy's study, you're seeing websites like HubSpot, you're seeing websites like Optinmonster, Ahrefs. Everybody basically is linking to that piece. It has become an industry standard content. My favorite, opinion style content. And I put I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, Last Love Green, because I absolutely love his blog. I absolutely love the way he creates content. And in my opinion, this is what makes somebody a thought leader. A thought leader is not a person who agrees with everybody. A thought leader is someone who is a critical thinker and that can defend their stance with data. For me, that is a thought leader. And Lash does a great job of it. Now, we had this webinar in November as an example. And during the webinar, Amanda roasted C-suite executives and she called some of them dumb. This was a great webinar, very engaging. People really loved it. People were talking about it on social media because that is what opinion style content does. It drives conversation, it drives traffic, it forces people to take note of you. It embeds your name in their head, whether it's an individual name or a brand name. It is going to bring traffic back to your websites. Now, why does it work? Relevance to the trending topic, features thought leaders, touches on sensitive topics, backed by receipts. For me, this is the key one, backed by receipts. Logical arguments. I hate those ones where somebody's writing an opinion piece and they're just saying stuff as fact, but they have no data to support what they're saying, and there's no logic to what they're saying. But also, I think it's important that when we have opinion style pieces, it encourages the reader to think differently. This is very, very important. Next one, first person led how-to content. I experimented with this from Q3 of last year because I was starting to see a lot of how I did this type of content showing up on Google Discover and in search results and even in my feed generally. So I was suspecting that Google is trying to show first-person experience as a way to surface people who are doing the work, who have the experience, and who are speaking to the authority. And I'm telling you now that all of the content that I experimented with, where I changed the title to reflect a first-person perspective, all of them performed really well. This content last year published till today, still driving a ton of traffic for us. Now, look at this one for My King. This was one of our best performing content in Q4 of 2024. This one is one of our best performing content on the topic of link building. And if you know how much content we have on link building, that gives you perspective on what this has achieved. Now, why does it work? It allows you to establish an emotional connection. And I think this is the most important thing with first-person content. This intro from Everett, for example, he had read my King's article on vector embeddings. Everybody found it very overwhelming. Some people tried to replicate it. Gus wrote a great guide. And then Everett is like, I'm going to write something that breaks it down for people who are unfamiliar with Python or vector embeddings. So when he comes with empathy, when he comes with being vulnerable, and you have that distrust, you have that fear that this is not going to be something you can implement, immediately it removes that barrier and you feel like, oh, okay, we both face the same problem, which means this is somebody that understands what I'm facing, which means whatever he shares is going to be easy for me to implement. Now, another reason why it works, it showcases expertise based on first-hand experience solving a problem. For me, this is the most important. Have you had an experience with the problem? What have you done to solve that problem? That article I just showed that Itamar wrote on link building performed so well because Itamar kept on referencing the stuff that he's doing personally or that his team at Studio Hawk has done to drive success for clients around link building. Now, another reason again, unique insights you can't find anywhere. This is something I always tell folks when they are publishing content on the Moz blog. Give me something that is going to make me go like, oh my God, this is amazing. I haven't seen this anywhere. Give me something unique that only you have done. Give me something that if I go to the SERPs, I'm not going to say it. If I read a blog post and I feel like, that's it. Okay, you've not done the job. It has to leave me feeling like I want to go and Google who the author is. I want to go and check out their LinkedIn. I want to do a deep dive into them because of how much value they have given me. And that's the kind of content, in my opinion, that you can only get with first person perspective. And you know why? Everybody has a different process for solving a problem. No two people are the same. Another great way to get this type of content, honestly, is through the webinar. The webinar we did with my king on the 101 ways he uses SEO. This was one of the 4 pieces that I repurposed from that webinar. It's a great way to get that first person perspective. Now, these are all informational content, but the key is that it's presented differently from competitors to platform the author's unique experience. And I can help the authors to tweak their content into first person using a GPT that I built. And the GPT is focused on editing content and then finding that first person narrative that allows the story to be empathetic, to be experience driven, and to really dial into the author's expertise. So my key question for you is, how are you standing out for sameness? And I blame Google for this. I blame Google because I've been doing a lot of research, a lot of experimentation, and something I'm seeing is, while Google is saying that they encourage helpful content, they actually don't. They encourage us to repeat each other or to copy from others because they claim they understand quality, but I don't think they do. They encourage us to do what everybody else is doing. But we have to fight back and say, how can we stand out from sameness while still ranking on the SERPs? Now, the next type of content, and for me, this is very important if you work in a SaaS company, product-led content. So one of the things I did when I joined Mmeje was to build out a SEO content strategy. And I built this out, as you see at the bottom, by solutions. So I look at the products and I start picking out all of the features, all of the solution that the product offers, and I use that to build clusters. And you can get that data by running a crawl report on Mmeje and pulling out all of the URLs, export them into a CSV. And once you have them in the CSV, if your website is already organized in a good hierarchy, you can easily filter that list to pull out URLs by solutions. So for example, let's say I have a list of URLs. I can just filter by intent, and all of the keywords, no, all of the URLs that have intent in them, I put them into a cluster, and then I filter to make sure that these are all focused on search intent. Same thing with keyword research. And that is just the process that I would use to cluster all of my products. Now, when I cluster that strategy to make decisions, I want to highlight content that is not driving any traffic, content that is cannibalizing our high impact pages. And this is something that I'm realizing when search intent changes, content that is optimized for the wrong keyword. I'm realizing that many times or sometimes the search intent for a keyword this year, come back in 3 years' time or in 5 years' time, it has completely changed. So if we still have the same search intent from 5 years ago and Google has changed what that search intent is, we lose our ranking for that keyword. Now, to make my decisions, I like to decide by redirecting cannibalized pages with poor performance, consolidating cannibalized pages with similar content, change target keyword where intent has changed, and update high-performing pages dropping out of SERPs. And then I can go into Mmeje and use the keyword gap to find gaps in our existing cluster based on competitor research. I can find new keyword opportunities, and I can find next level blog post ideas that allows us to show how to use a feature in Mmeje to solve a specific problem. Now, what I find really interesting is that there's a lot of pressure on content folks to publish net new content, but we can actually get great results with content refreshes. For example, the Learn Center on Mmeje, I updated it between November and December last year, lots of content, maybe 85 pages or so. and we achieved 23.3% increase in URL clicks. Honestly, that is just incredible results. Now, these are informational pages. That's what makes it very interesting. Informational pages that attract a ton of traffic, the same informational pages that is dominating AI and eating into clicks, because a lot of the stuff that is showing up for AI overviews, a lot of the stuff that is showing up on LLMs are informational content. So why they're eating into clicks is still the biggest driver of traffic. I think it's just us having perspective. It's still the biggest driver of traffic. It's still worth optimizing for, because we do need that organic traffic. So how can you use what you have to achieve ROI without creating net new content? And I'm just going to walk you quickly through our strategy for that update. So I did a self-analysis review to understand what our competitors are doing, reviewing all of these things you're saying. The main thing for me was the title, the subheadings, where they added workflows, and what is the unique angle that they are covering. Then I want to look at our own content. How do we stack up? And I review our title, how we organize our subheading hierarchy, where are we just writing stuff that looks like, will I say, meaningless content? Where's the gap in our content? Can we add examples to make it more actionable? Can we infuse the content with experience? And where can I naturally plug in a product workflow so that it feels like it's solving a pain point? And entity optimization. This is so important. I know that Google is getting better at understanding entities on a page, but I guarantee you that if you optimize for entities, it's just going to take your content one step closer to showing up on Google. And I use Software SEO for this step. Honestly, it's a tool I recommend for that. Now, I'm going to give an example with keyword cannibalization. And I'm using this example because Ahrefs wrote an article on keyword cannibalization and they completely roasted us because we have so much cannibalization issues that I'm going to start solving for next quarter. And I was like, what the hell? And I just took that and I was like, nah, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this. So we optimized our content, redirected a lot of stuff that was outdated. And what do we see? Our content that we wrote net new and updated all of the old ones has gotten us the top 4 for that keyword. So it's just having a process of understanding what's all the stuff we have that we don't need. Brutal. You have to be very brutal with that. What is going to be the best page to use as our pillar for that keyword? And how can we do better than our competitors to show up on SEP? Now, I also have a content refresh GPT that I use for everything that I have just shown you. And that GPT has been a lifesaver. But I will say this, no GPT is good enough to replace knowledge. None. Because you still have to be able to understand context. And that is something I think AI lacks, understanding context. When you look at this content and this content, what is wrong? What is wrong with your content that this one has done better? It doesn't have that yet. And trust me, I know this because I spend a ton of time on these tools. This is just an example. So I gave it an article and I can just give it a context when I'm appearing on top 10. What would you move from us? And how would you create a new content outline to fill in gaps that our competitors are covering? It gives me something and I can just look at what it has given me and then apply my experience to make sure that the end result that I end up going with is the best out there. Part 6, affiliate and influencer-led content. And it's very surprising because this is not something that we use a lot in traditional SEO. And the problem is that SEO is often divorced from brand marketing. I don't think we've thought about this, like really thought about what this means. SEO sits in silo. It sits in silo as this thing that's supposed to do all in all. But the truth is that when you look at a SEP like this, and you look at these keywords, the keyword here is best keyword research software. You can see paid ad on top. You can see SEO showing you a SEP feature. And then you can see content from an influencer or an affiliate. This is an affiliate, but it's an idea of what that looks like. From an influencer or affiliate, covering that topic. There are lots of content on SERPs that review style affiliate folks are ranking for, that if you wrote that content with your own brand, you would have no chance of ranking for that keyword. And I covered this in an article I wrote on Mmeje blog because I was getting really pissed off with all the hot takes around SEO being dead, GEO not being not worth optimizing for, all of that bullshit. And I just did my own hot take in here. So definitely something to check out as it relates to that conversation of SEO sitting in silo. Now, if you want to optimize for SEO and generative search at the same time, brand marketing for me is the underlying factor. And I talked about it briefly on LinkedIn. And while this is an oversimplification, you want all of these things, right? But all these things you want relating to brand, SEO can get everything for you. Look at that example. Which SEO software is the best data for keyword research? And if you see where the LLMs are pulling that data from, HubSpot community, SEO.com, HubSpot community, Gartner. These are different sources that literally have nothing to do with our websites. So influencers and affiliates are a great way to get brand mentions and drive referral traffic. Lydia is not even an influencer or an affiliate in the traditional sense of the word. So I would call her more of an apostle, because here she's presenting keyword insight as a solution. I had asked a question on LinkedIn and I said, I'm working on a project in Q2 on keyword cannibalization. Who has done this on an enterprise site? Give me some tips on what worked. And this is what she shared. She talked about the easiest approach being keyword insights. And she also talked about using Mmeje to do some of that work. So if somebody looks at this, they see that Lydia is not affiliated to any of these tools. They can then say, oh, she has no incentive to sell or to lie to me. This is a process that I want to go and try out for myself. Now, back to that example I gave on the SERP results, you can see that we got featured in Zapier. And it's an article that is ranking top of SERP for a very competitive keyword or best keyword research tool. We didn't do anything to get that feature. Like, it was completely off the back of the tool itself that we earned that referral traffic. But it's not always going to be like that, right? So what do you want when you're working with influencers and affiliates? You want brand mentions across the web. You want positive brand sentiment. You want brand association with key topics. For me, this is extremely important. And good to have brand mentions and training data LLMs prefer. And how do you get it? You encourage your affiliates and influencers to show how they use your product to solve a problem. For me, this is number one. Incentivize them with referral bonuses, and you mix it up across channels rather than just focusing on blog or text, video, podcast, webinar reviews, so many different ways to get this type of content. And yes, even your employees can be brand influencers. And I am speaking about Gong, number one, absolute boss level mode with using their employees as brand influencers. I found out about Gong through Udi Ledogo. Gosh, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. But yeah, it wasn't even through the product itself. It was through Udi on LinkedIn. And there are like a bunch of other folks at Gong that are doing an exceptional job of brand influencing. Now, when you are doing this type of content, I found that what works is to target reviews versus keywords. Is this tool really worth the money? How to use this tool for a specific problem? Best X tool, best software, best software to competitor name, how to do X function for beginners. I tried X2 for 30 days, and here's what I found. I personally like this last one because it means that the person have actually used the tool and they're coming to give their feedback. And this is an example with Inc. writing a review on the Sidekick notepad when I was researching productivity hacks for someone like me that has ADHD. Now, I spoke to Tali Chester and I asked her to give me some tips on how she chooses affiliates and influencers when she's working with them. The first thing Tali said is you have to understand who is that ideal customer, what is their industry, and where are their customers getting information. So important. Where are their customers hanging out? Because that is what you want to influence. Now, you can analyze your competitors' mentions and backlink data to understand which sites are driving the most traffic to your competitors' website. And this is something you can do with Mmeje by going to linking domains and putting in a competitor's URL. And then you just start to get an idea. For example, I can see that SE ranking is getting mentions and backlinks from Forbes, Business Insider, TechCrunch. So if I was a new website, or rather, if I was a website that was about to kick off an influencer or affiliate campaign, these would be good places for me to also start. Now, who do you want to target? Niche influencers and content creators, educators who teach courses or provide tutorials and learning resources. That is a gold mine. If you know somebody who has like a successful course, doesn't have to be successful, because when students are taking a course, they need a tool to explore or to experiment with what they are learning. You can partner with an educator, give them a discount or a extended free trial so that the students can use the tool with what they are learning, and that encourages them to even sign up or vest. Review and comparison sites, affiliate marketers with proven conversion. Now, for websites, you want to evaluate things like their DA, their backlink profile, their keyword rankings. You want to check out their traffic, make sure that it's not bloated. It's like actual real people visiting those websites, and that the traffic is coming from countries that you're targeting. You're also going to check historical performance, where they have promoted similar content from competitors in the past. And most importantly, you want to check their conversion rate and earning per click, because the ultimate goal, even above brand mentions, is to make money. Now, for social media and YouTube, these are not affiliates for Mmeje. I just got some folks who have talked about us online, and I'm using that here just for context. For social media and YouTube, you want to evaluate subscriber counts versus engagement. There are too many cases where an account will have like 150K subscribers and the engagement on the content will be like 200 views. The math is not matching. Is the content of great quality? What is the historical performance? And once again, that's earning per click and conversion rate. Now, a great way to incentivize top partners is to offer co-branded partnerships where they can borrow from your visibility and you can borrow from their visibility. Webinars are a great way to do that. Offer higher commission rates than competitors. Give them insight into the data because it incentivizes them to do more, and it kind of like feels like they're in a competitive mode where they're trying to reach a target. But best of all, I would say exclusive discount and coupons that when people go online, it's not your website. It can only be gotten through that affiliate. Now, this is a very, very interesting data published on Search Engine Land. And it says that 59% of Americans click on brands they know in Google search results. Now, something I've found that I believe is that if you increase your brand affinity authority, you will dominate traditional SERPs and AI futures. So rather than having SEO sit in silo, rather than debating whether SEO is dead, rather than debating whether GEO and AI is going to take over, we need to start thinking about the future. We need to start thinking beyond this moment. And beyond this moment is brand. In the past was brand. Right now is brand. Is why companies like HubSpot, despite all the hate that they get on social media, they are still killing it on Google search. We have to prioritize brand as part of an integrated digital strategy that includes SEO for discoverability, digital PR for credibility, influencer marketing for trust, affiliate for demand, and social to stay top of mind. Once again, SEO can no longer sit in silos. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Chima. That was very, very useful. and I see the reaction. People they liked it as well. So we have a question, and then I have another question. So it says that in this first person approach, could we also showcase the client and how he or she solved his or her problem with our assistance, or we're not
Yes,
allowed to do that?
yes. Um, I think, look, any if you're a product-led company, any opportunity to platform your customers, any opportunity to show your product naturally, hell yes. Every single time, yes. If you look at brands like HubSpot, look at brands, I'm even going to mention a competitor, Ahrefs, SEMrush, and what we're starting to move towards now, Moz. Look at how they platform the product. The product is always part of a bigger solution. The product is sitting as the thing that is going to solve a pain point. Using first person content to do that is even better because you're tapping into a customer who has used your product to solve a problem. They can highlight the strategy behind that and then include your product naturally as part of the solution. So it doesn't feel like selling. It feels like this is the natural next step for you to take. And it's
Okay,
also positive brand mention too. Yes, also positive brand mention.
okay, thank you. Now you mentioned in the very beginning that it's very important that we find these top voices that we have in our network and bring them over. Uh, how easy is it to find those top voices? I feel that the last days and the last months or years, what's happening is that people that are just they don't like becoming top voices. They just repeat what they see, or they just ChatGPTing and they get results back. So how hard and what is the process of finding or even building those top voices?
So that's a good question because it's a two-part problem to find the right people to use for webinars. One, you have to find what you want to talk about. That's the first step. And then two, you have to find who is going to talk about it. So if it's like beginner level type of webinar, your customer always. You speak to sales, you speak to enterprise, whoever it is that has that direct connection with the customer, and they will tell you who is their favorite customer, who is the person that is easy to work with, is always bragging about the tool. That's the person you want to pick. You go and check out their websites. You want to make sure that they actually have a great process that you can easily see that your tool has contributed to it. There has to be a clear link between their product or their solution and your tool. So that's why I use Moz as an example now. We pick a client who is an agency. That agency has gotten an insane result for one of their clients. They got that result for their client through SEO, and they used Moz tool. So that is the clear pathway. You can find the clients, and then you can find a client who has gotten an insane result using your tool. If it's not educational content, something more advanced, that is when you start talking about thought leaders. What I always do is to ask publicly on LinkedIn. And when I ask publicly on LinkedIn, people start recommending folks. Then I go and check out those folks. I see, have they done anything related to that topic? I ask them, if you were to come on the webinar to discuss this topic, how would you cover it? They will give me some tips, and immediately I can tell if they are experts or not. And I ask them, have you achieved a result for a client using this static or this solution? And they tell me yes, no. If the answer is no, it means they're not the right person. If the answer is yes, what was the result? If they give me that result, I can take that result and make it the title. Example, we just went live with a webinar page on Moz for our next webinar with Lachey Lewis. And Lachey achieved a 600% lift for her clients using Bofo and AI. That is result. That means she has done the work. That makes her the right person to teach everybody else about Bofo AI content rather than somebody who just has strategies that they've copied off somebody else.
Okay, okay, I got it. Thank you. It's interesting that when you are actually asking people on LinkedIn to apply for a top
No, not
voice for
I
not
ask
apply.
people to recommend. That's always the key thing. Because the recommendations are better than when people are putting themselves forward. If somebody is mentioning your name, it means you've made an impact. It means you now like in their head and they think of you. You're the first thing they think of when they hear a problem. Those are the kind of people that I want to be speaking to.
Okay. Do you feel as well that we have a bit lack of top voices?
Nope.
Do no? You
Nope.
believe that they are? We
Oh
just
yeah.
need to find.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Like I'm in SEO, and my whole feed is thought leaders. There's some people who are like genuine thought leaders sharing like revolutionary stuff they're working on, results that they're getting, the strategies behind it. There are always people that are sharing the stuff they're working on publicly. Always. I don't even care what industry it is. You will always find somebody who is driving results with like actual work.
Okay. A new question: why you believe that internet is full of SEO is dead kind of post? What's the
Yeah.
reason behind?
Yes, I think so. I think the first one was that there was an influencer, an SEO influencer, that made a post 2 weeks ago where he said SEO is dead, and he said SEO is dead because generative search is taking over. And the reason he gave behind that was just false data. And somebody else, another influencer, jumped on it saying GEO doesn't mean crap. And again, they just cherry picked the data. And all of this is fear mongering, it's fear mongering because for an industry like SEO, where we get like hundreds of algorithm changes in a year, we are vehemently opposed to change. That's one. Number two is all of this thing with AI. And again, I don't want to say AI, with Google stealing clicks, and because the clicks are declining, people are starting to question, oh my God, is SEO no longer a viable channel? Should we start pushing our attention towards AI? But they're ignoring the bigger picture. If you go and look into your GA analytics right now and you see your traffic sources, you're still going to see that organic is your number one traffic source by a mile. In fact, I called it an ocean sized gap. So it happens every year, it happens every couple of years, and it's always the influencers. They are the one who starts that fear mongering. They cherry pick the data, they use it to like frame a narrative that fits what they're trying to say, and they present that data to people who don't have the kind of insights that I do. I say I, being someone who has been in industry for a longer period. And many of the people who are following these influencers, they are beginners, they have maybe 1-2 years of experience. So they don't have that deep insight to be able to form critical opinions. And that's a very dangerous thing. You give somebody a platform, or somebody has a platform where they have like 100K followers, and they start sharing misinformation. And what do you have? You have fear mongering. You have people being distracted from the right thing being brand and SEO, instead of whether SEO is dead or not.
Okay. Okay, excellent. So I don't have any more questions. I believe we are okay. Let me see that we answered them all. Yes, yes, I believe we're fine. So I would like to thank you. That was very insightful and very useful. And we will share that with the colleagues and those that they couldn't come. So we will share this stream with everybody, and we'll take it from there. Excellent. So
Thank
thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you so much to you, and thank you to everyone who joined today. Bye bye.
Bye for now.